There were 3 walls, towering monuments of stone and mystery, each rising 50 meters into the sky, dwarfing the towns and cities built in their shadow. Wall Maria, the outermost barrier. Wall Rose, the second defense. And Wall Sina, the innermost sanctuary where the capital resided and the royal family governed. For 100 years, these walls had stood unbroken, sentinel giants that separated humanity from the nightmare that lurked beyond. The Titans. No one remembered when they first appeared. The history books spoke of a world that once belonged to humanity, where people moved freely across vast lands, where the sky stretched endlessly in all directions without barriers of stone to constrain it. But that world had ended. The Titans came, and humanity retreated, building these massive walls as their final refuge. For a century, the walls had held. For a century, no Titan had breached the perimeter. And in that strange peace, generations grew up, knowing nothing but the caged existence within these artificial boundaries. 3 concentric circles of stone. That was humanity's world. That was everything. Most people had learned to accept this reality. They lived their lives, raised their families, worked their trades, all within the confines of these massive barriers. They convinced themselves that this was enough, that safety was worth the sacrifice of freedom. But there were some who could not accept it. Some who looked at those walls and saw not protection, but a prison. Some who dreamed of the world beyond, of lands they would never see, of horizons that remained forever out of reach. Eren Yeager was one of those dreamers. The year was 845, and in the Shiganshina district, a semicircular town that jutted out from Wall Maria like a bubble of civilization against the wilderness, the young boy awoke from a dream he could not quite remember. His eyes opened suddenly, tears streaming down his face for reasons he did not understand. The dream had already faded, slipping away like water through his fingers, leaving behind only a profound sense of loss and an inexplicable urgency. What Eren had witnessed in that dream would remain a mystery, though the feeling it left suggested something significant, as if his subconscious had glimpsed fragments of a future he could not yet comprehend. "Eren, why are you crying?" Mikasa Ackerman asked, her dark eyes studying him with concern. Mikasa, his adopted sister, though they were not related by blood. 2 years ago, Eren's father, Grisha, had brought her into their family after a terrible tragedy. Human traffickers had murdered her parents, intending to sell young Mikasa into slavery. But Eren had found her, had killed 2 of her captors, despite being just a child himself, and together they had survived that nightmare. Since then, Mikasa had lived with the Yeager family, devoted to Eren with an intensity that sometimes bordered on suffocating. "I don't know," Eren said, wiping his eyes. "It was a really long dream. I can't remember it, but it felt like something bad happened." They were returning to Shiganshina after collecting firewood in the hills. The day was ordinary, peaceful. People went about their business in the streets. Merchants called out their wares. Children played in the dirt roads. The sun cast long afternoon shadows across the town square. Everything was as it had always been, as it had been for 100 years. But Eren felt restless. He always felt restless. The walls surrounding them seemed to press inward, making it hard to breathe. How could people live like this? How could they accept this cage as their entire world? As they passed through the main street, they encountered Hannes and several other soldiers from the garrison regiment, the military branch tasked with defending and maintaining the walls. The soldiers were drinking, laughing, clearly enjoying themselves rather than performing their duties. Hannes was a family friend, someone Eren had known his entire life, but even friendly faces could not excuse such negligence. "You're drunk!" Eren shouted at them. His small fists clenched in anger. "What are you doing? What if the Titans attack? What if they break through the wall?" Hannes laughed, not unkindly. "Easy there, Eren. The walls have held for 100 years. There hasn't been a Titan breach in living memory. We're just taking it easy because there's nothing to worry about. That's exactly the problem, Eren insisted. Everyone's gotten complacent. The Titans are still out there. Just because they haven't attacked doesn't mean they never will. The Survey Corps goes outside the walls all the time, and they see Titans everywhere. Those things are still out there, waiting. The soldiers exchanged glances, their amusement fading slightly. The boy had a point, but it was a point they did not want to acknowledge. Fear was exhausting. Vigilance was exhausting. It was easier to believe that the walls would always protect them, that the long peace would continue indefinitely. Eren, don't cause trouble, Mikasa said quietly, tugging at his sleeve. But Eren was not finished. I'm going to join the Survey Corps when I'm old enough. I'm going to go outside the walls and fight the Titans. I'm going to see what's out there, beyond these walls. I'm going to see the ocean. The ocean. A vast body of salt water, so large that merchants could travel for days without seeing land. Eren had read about it in one of Armin's books. His best friend, Armin Arler, was a quiet, thoughtful boy who devoured every book he could find, dreaming of the world beyond the walls just as Eren did. Together, they would talk for hours about the things that supposedly existed outside. Oceans, deserts, mountains of ice, fields of sand that stretched to the horizon. The world was so much larger than these three walls. How could anyone be content never seeing it? Hannes shook his head. The Survey Corps, huh? That's a death sentence, kid. Most of them don't come back. Your mother must be worried sick. Indeed, Carla Yeager was very worried. When Eren and Mikasa arrived home, she immediately noticed Eren's troubled expression and the defiant set to his jaw. She knew that look. Her son had been arguing about the walls again, talking about joining the Survey Corps again, dreaming of freedom again. Eren, she said gently, you don't have to join the military. You could learn a trade. Your father is a doctor. You could follow in his footsteps. There are so many ways to live a good life here, safe within the walls. Safe? Eren's voice rose. We're not safe. We're trapped. This isn't living, Mom. It's just existing. We're like cattle in a pen, and the Titans are waiting outside to devour us the moment these walls fail. How can you call that living? Eren, Carla's voice sharpened. Don't speak that way. These walls have protected us for 100 years. We're alive because of them. We have food, shelter, family. That's more than enough. But it was not enough. Not for Eren. He could not explain it. This burning need to break free, to see the world, to fight against the Titans that had stolen humanity's freedom. It was irrational, perhaps. The world beyond the walls was dangerous. The Titans were horrifying monsters, giant humanoid creatures that devoured humans for no apparent reason, driven by some inexplicable instinct to hunt and consume. They ranged in height from 3 meters to 15 meters, with distorted features and unsettling grins. They felt no pain, they could not be reasoned with, and they regenerated from almost any wound, making them nearly impossible to kill. The only way to kill a Titan was to sever a small section of flesh at the nape of their neck, about 1 meter long and 10 centimeters wide. This required soldiers to use omnidirectional mobility gear, a complex system of gas-powered grappling hooks and cables that allowed humans to swing through the air and reach the Titan's weak points. It was dangerous. It was often fatal. The Survey Corps suffered casualty rates of 30% or more on every expedition beyond the walls. But despite these grim statistics, some still volunteered. Some still believed that humanity had to fight, had to push back against the Titans, had to reclaim the world that had been stolen from them. Eren wanted to be one of those fighters. He wanted to matter. He wanted to do something more than just exist safely within these walls while the Titans roamed free outside. That evening, As the family sat down for dinner, Eren's father Grisha arrived home. Grisha Yeager was a district doctor, respected throughout Shiganshina for his medical skill and his calm demeanor. He was a mysterious man in many ways, with gaps in his past that he never quite explained. Where had he come from before arriving at the walls? What had his life been like? He never spoke of it, and Carla had learned not to ask. "I heard you and Eren had words," Grisha said to his wife as he washed his hands at the basin. "He wants to join the survey course," Carla said, her voice tight with worry. "Grisha, talk to him. Tell him it's suicide. Tell him there are better ways to spend his life." But Grisha did not immediately discourage his son. Instead, he looked at Eren thoughtfully. "You want to see what's outside the walls?" Eren nodded vigorously. "I want to know what's out there. I want to fight the Titans. I want to understand why we're trapped like this." Something flickered in Grisha's eyes. Pain, perhaps, or recognition. "When I return from my next trip to the capital," he said slowly, "I'll show you what's in the basement. There's something important there, something you need to know." The basement. Grisha had always kept it locked, forbidden to the children. What could be down there? What secret was so important that his father's voice took on that grave tone? But before Eren could ask more questions, bells began ringing throughout the district. Not alarm bells. These were different. They signaled the return of the Survey Corps from their latest expedition beyond the walls. Eren and Mikasa rushed outside, joining the crowds gathering near the main gate. The Survey Corps was humanity's hope, the brave soldiers who ventured beyond the walls to fight Titans and map the territory. Every time they departed, crowds would cheer them on, and every time they returned, the crowds would fall silent, counting how many horses came back without riders. Today was no different. The Survey Corps rode through the gate, their green cloaks stained with blood and dirt, their faces hollow with exhaustion and trauma. So few of them. So many empty saddles. The people lining the streets stood in horrified silence, realizing once again the terrible cost of each expedition. One woman pushed through the crowd as a soldier stopped his horse. "Please," she begged, "my son, Moses, is he with you? Did he survive?" The soldier looked down at her, his face ashen. Slowly, he held out a blood-stained arm, severed at the shoulder. "This is all we could recover," he said quietly. "But at least we brought something back. At least you have this much to bury." The woman collapsed, screaming, clutching that severed arm to her chest, as if it could somehow bring her son back. This was the reality of fighting Titans. This was what Eren wanted to be part of. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, Eren and his friends gathered atop the wall to watch the returning soldiers. Armin was there, his blonde hair catching the golden light, his blue eyes distant with thought. And somehow, word had spread that Eren was planning to join the Survey CE, because some of the other children from the neighborhood had gathered as well, mocking him. "You really think you can fight Titans?" one of them sneered. "You'll just end up like that Moses guy, dead and forgotten." Eren was about to argue when the bell rang again. But this was different. This bell was deep and resonant, a sound that had not been heard in 100 years. The alarm bell, the warning bell. And then they saw it, rising above Wall Maria, impossibly tall, impossibly massive. A hand gripped the top of the 50-meter wall, fingers as large as wagons. And then a head rose into view, 60 meters tall, towering even above the wall's height, its skinless face a nightmare of exposed muscle and bone, its eyes fixed on the town below with unsettling intelligence. The Colossal Titan. Time seemed to freeze. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. They simply stared at this impossible thing, this Titan that should not exist, that was far larger than any Titan ever documented. Its very presence defied everything humanity thought they knew about their enemy. and then it kicked. The impact was apocalyptic. The gate of Wall Maria, the massive reinforced barrier that had stood for a century, exploded inward in a shower of stone and metal. Chunks of wall the size of houses flew through the air, crashing into buildings, crushing dozens of people in an instant. The shockwave of the kick rolled through Shiganshina like a physical force, shattering windows, collapsing roofs, throwing people to the ground. And through the breached gate, Titans began to pour in. Chaos erupted instantly. The peaceful afternoon dissolved into nightmare. People ran screaming through the streets as Titans of various sizes flooded into the district. 3-meter class, 7-meter class, 15-meter class. They came in all sizes, all wearing those horrifying grins, their movements awkward yet terrifyingly fast. Eren and Mikasa ran. They had been some distance from the initial breach, giving them precious seconds to react. But their home was near the edge of town, close to where the Titans were entering. They had to reach it. They had to save their mother. Behind them, the sounds of slaughter echoed through the streets. Screams cut short, the wet crunch of bodies being crushed. The Titans made no sounds except for the heavy footfalls and the occasional grunt of exertion as they grabbed their prey. Titans did not eat out of hunger. They had no digestive system, no need for sustenance. After devouring several humans, a Titan would simply vomit up a compacted ball of partially digested bodies and continue hunting. They killed for the sake of killing, driven by some incomprehensible instinct that no one understood. When Eren and Mikasa reached their home, they found it destroyed. A massive boulder, one of the chunks of wall thrown by the Colossal Titan's kick, had crashed through the roof and upper floor, reducing the structure to rubble. And there, trapped beneath a fallen beam, was their mother. "Eren! Mikasa!" Carla's voice was strained but controlled. "Thank God you're safe. You need to run. Get out of here. Get to the boats at the interior gate. We're not leaving you." Eren grabbed the beam, pinning her, trying desperately to lift it. But he was just a 10-year-old boy, his hands strained against wood and stone that weighed hundreds of pounds. Mikasa joined him, her superior strength making more difference, but still not enough. The beam would not budge. "Please," Carla begged. "Run. Live. That's all I want. Forget about me and just survive." Hannes appeared, having abandoned his post to help evacuate civilians. He saw the situation immediately and moved to lift the beam, using his adult strength to try what the children could not. But even as he strained, they all heard it. Heavy footsteps, getting closer. The shadow of something massive falling over them. A Titan. Not one of the larger ones, but terrifying nonetheless. About 5 meters tall, with blonde hair and a wide, smiling face. The smiling Titan, as it would later be remembered. Something about its grin was especially horrifying, especially wrong. It looked almost happy as it approached, as if this were all a delightful game. Hannes froze. He had drawn his blades, prepared to fight, but as the Titan approached, something inside him broke. Fear overwhelmed training and duty and courage. He simply stood there, trembling, unable to move. "Hannes," Carla's voice was calm now, accepting. "Take the children and go. That's an order. Save them. Please." He wanted to argue. He wanted to fight. But his body would not obey. So he grabbed both children, one under each arm, and ran. Eren screamed and struggled, trying to break free, but Hannes held tight. Mikasa went limp, her eyes wide and empty with shock. Behind them, they heard Carla's last words. "Don't go. Don't leave me alone. Please." The smiling Titan reached down, its massive hand closing around the lower half of Carla's body. It lifted her gently, almost carefully, from the rubble. And then, as Eren watched in horror over Hannes's shoulder, the Titan opened its mouth and bit down, blood sprayed. Carla's scream cut off abruptly. The Titan chewed once, twice, and then swallowed, that same smile never leaving its face. Eren's mind shattered in that moment. Something fundamental broke inside him. His mother was gone, devoured, reduced to nothing more than food for a creature that did not even need to eat. The injustice of it, the wrongness of it, the sheer casual horror of her death ignited something dark and furious in his soul. As Hannes carried them toward the evacuation boats, dodging titans and corpses and rubble, Eren's tears stopped. His expression hardened, and in his heart, a promise formed, a vow. He would kill them all, every single Titan. He would exterminate them from this world. He would have his revenge, no matter the cost. Behind them, after the last evacuees had made it to safety, behind Wall Maria's interior gate, a second massive Titan appeared. The armored Titan, its body covered in hardened plates that made it nearly indestructible. It charged the interior gate, lowering its shoulder, building momentum. And when it struck, the gate shattered just as the first one had. Wall Maria was lost. The entire territory between the outermost wall and the second wall was now Titan territory. Humanity had just lost 1/3 of its remaining land, and with it, they lost their fertile farmland, their strategic territory, and hundreds of thousands of lives. The refugees who made it inside Wall Rose found themselves in a humanitarian crisis. There was not enough food, not enough housing, not enough resources for the sudden influx of displaced people. The government's solution was brutal. They sent 250,000 refugees, armed with little more than farming tools, on a so-called reclamation mission to retake Wall Maria. In truth, it was a culling. Nearly all of them died. The government sacrificed them to reduce the population pressure, disguising mass murder as a military operation. Among those who participated in that doomed expedition was Armin's grandfather. He never returned. In the year that followed the fall of Shiganshina, Eren, Mikasa, and Armin lived as refugees. They experienced hunger, cold, and the contempt of those who had lost nothing in the attack. The citizens of Wall Rose viewed the Shiganshina survivors as parasites, consuming resources without contributing anything in return. Fights broke out. Riots occurred. The fragile peace within the walls was strained to its breaking point. But through it all, Eren never forgot his promise. He would join the military. He would learn to fight. And he would kill every last Titan. 3 years after the fall of Wall Maria, in the year 847, Eren, Mikasa, and Armin joined the 104th Training Corps. Military training began at age 12 and lasted 3 years. Those who graduated would choose between 3 military branches: the Garrison Regiment, which defended the walls; the Military Police Brigade, which served in the interior and protected the king; or the Survey Corps, which ventured beyond the walls to fight Titans. Only the top 10 graduates were eligible to join the military police. For most trainees, this was the goal. The military police lived comfortably in the interior, far from the threat of Titans, enjoying privileges and relative safety. To join them was to secure a comfortable life. But Eren had no interest in comfort or safety. From the first day of training, he made his intentions clear. He would join the Survey Corps. He would go beyond the walls. And he would kill Titans. The training was brutal. Commander Keith Shaddis, a harsh man scarred by years of failure and loss, put the cadets through grueling physical conditioning. They learned hand-to-hand combat, strategy, Titan behavior, and most importantly, how to use omnidirectional mobility gear. The ODM gear was humanity's greatest weapon against the Titans. A complex system of gas-powered grappling hooks, steel cables, and maneuvering thrusters, it allowed soldiers to launch themselves through the air, swinging between buildings or trees, building momentum to reach incredible speeds. With proper technique, a soldier could launch themselves at a Titan's weak point, using specially designed blades to slice through the nape of the neck and kill the creature. But mastering the ODM gear required extraordinary physical conditioning, spatial awareness, and courage. Many cadets struggled, some washed out entirely. And on the first day of training, Eren Yeager nearly failed. The test was simple. Strap into the ODM gear's harness, balance yourself while suspended. Prove you could maintain the proper posture required for aerial maneuvering. Most cadets passed easily. But when Eren was hoisted up, he immediately fell forward, unable to maintain his balance. He tried again, and again, and again. Each time, he fell. His equipment seemed faulty. His body would not cooperate. Frustration and despair filled him as he watched other cadets succeed at something he could not do. If he failed this basic test, he would be expelled. His promise to his mother would mean nothing. His vow for revenge would remain forever unfulfilled. That night, two of his fellow trainees approached him. Reiner Braun, a tall, strong boy with short blonde hair and a determined expression, and Bertolt Hoover, a quiet, gangly youth who always seemed nervous. They offered advice, encouragement, and their own experiences with the gear. "Don't give up," Reiner said, clapping Eren on the shoulder. "You've got the spirit. You've got the drive. That's more important than natural talent. Keep trying." Eren wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at his heart. What if he simply was not capable? What if all his rage and determination meant nothing? The next day, Commander Stohess revealed the truth. Eren's gear had been faulty, the balance mechanism damaged. When he was given functioning equipment, Eren passed the test immediately, balancing perfectly on his first attempt. His relief was overwhelming, but so was his anger. He had spent an entire day doubting himself because of defective equipment, but he had learned something valuable. Even with faulty gear, he had kept trying. Even when failure seemed certain, he had not given up. That persistence, that refusal to quit, would define him in the years to come. As training continued, the cadets formed bonds and rivalries. Eren found himself constantly clashing with Jean Kirsten, a pragmatic young man with light brown hair and aspirations to join the military police. Jean thought Eren was a suicidal idiot for wanting to join the Survey Corps. Eren thought Jean was a coward for choosing safety over duty. Their arguments grew heated. At one point, they came to blows, wrestling in the barracks until their instructors separated them. But beneath the rivalry was a grudging respect. Jean recognized Eren's determination, even if he thought it was misguided. And Eren recognized that Jean's desire to protect himself and ensure his own survival was not cowardice, but a legitimate response to the horror of their world. Among the other notable cadets was Sasha Blouse, a girl from a rural hunting village with an insatiable appetite and a talent for archery. She was strange, often inappropriately cheerful, and had a habit of stealing food from the mess hall. But in combat drills, her reflexes and aim were extraordinary. There was Connie Springer, short and bald despite his youth, with a gift for quick thinking in combat situations. His speed and agility made up for his lack of physical strength. There was Historia Rice, though she went by the name Krista Lentz at the time. Small and blonde with a gentle demeanor, she seemed too kind for military service. But she had her own reasons for being there, secrets she kept locked away. And there was Annie Leonhardt, a small girl with blonde hair and a cold, distant expression. She was perhaps the most skilled fighter in hand-to-hand combat, with a martial arts technique that allowed her to defeat opponents much larger than herself. She offered to teach Eren some of her moves, and their training sessions became a regular occurrence. "You rely too much on aggression," Annie told him one day as she flipped him onto his back for the dozenth time. "You're angry, and that makes you predictable." Learn to read your opponent. Learn to use their strength against them. Eren absorbed her lessons, though his hot-headed nature often caused him to ignore good advice in favor of reckless attacks. But slowly, over 3 years of grueling training, he improved. They all improved. Mikasa, unsurprisingly, excelled at everything. She was the top cadet in their class, possibly the best soldier the training corps had seen in generations. Her scores in every category were exceptional. Her strength, speed, and skill with the ODM gear made her seem superhuman. Some attributed this to Ackerman blood, suggesting that her family line possessed some inherited advantage in combat. Others simply called her a prodigy. But for Mikasa, training was not about glory or achievement. It was about protecting Eren. Ever since that day he had saved her from the traffickers, ever since she had watched him fight with desperate courage to keep her alive, she had devoted herself to keeping him safe. The fall of Wall Maria and the loss of Carla had only strengthened that devotion. Eren was her family now, her only family, and she would not lose him. Armin struggled more than his friends. He was physically weak, small and thin with little natural strength. In hand-to-hand combat, he was routinely defeated. His ODM gear skills were adequate but not exceptional. By traditional measures, he was not a talented soldier. But Armin possessed something more valuable than physical prowess. He had a brilliant tactical mind. During strategy lectures, he would ask questions that no one else considered. He would propose solutions that seemed counterintuitive, but proved devastatingly effective. His understanding of Titan behavior, psychology, and battlefield dynamics was unmatched. Commander Stohess recognized this, though he would never admit it openly. Stohess was a broken man, haunted by his failures as commander of the Survey Corps before Erwin Smith took over. He had led countless soldiers to their deaths, achieved nothing, and been forced to step down in disgrace. Now he trained the next generation, watching them prepare for the same fate that had consumed so many under his command. The 3 years passed in a blur of training, exhaustion, and gradually growing skill. The frightened children who had survived the fall of Shiganshina became soldiers. Not yet tested in real combat, but prepared as well as training could make them. In 850, the 104th Training Corps graduated. The ceremony was formal and somber. The top 10 cadets were announced, those who had earned the right to join the military police if they chose. First place, Mikasa Ackerman. Second, Rainer Braun. Third, Bertolt Hoover. Fourth, Annie Leonhardt. Fifth, Eren Yeager. Sixth, Jean Kirstein. Seventh, Marco Bott, a freckled young man with a kind face and strong sense of duty. Eighth, Connie Springer. Ninth, Sasha Blouse. 10th, Krista Lenz. Each of them had the option to choose their path. Most of the top 10 immediately declared for the military police. Jean announced his intention to join them, drawing a disgusted look from Eren. Marco planned to join as well, though he hoped to serve with honor and help reform the corrupt organization from within. But when the commanders asked for volunteers for the Survey Corps, Eren stepped forward without hesitation. Then Mikasa stepped forward, because wherever Eren went, she would follow. Then Armin, his hand shaking, but his resolve firm. And then, to everyone's surprise, others followed. Sasha, Connie. Even Jean, at the last moment, changed his mind and stepped forward. Why? Why volunteer for almost certain death when they could live safely in the interior? Perhaps it was Eren's words, spoken the night before. Perhaps it was the memory of the fall of Shiganshina, the knowledge that the walls could fail again. Perhaps it was a sense of duty or honor, or the simple realization that they could not live with themselves if they chose comfort over fighting for humanity's survival. Whatever their reasons, the 104th Training Corps produced an unusual number of Survey Corps volunteers, and just 2 days after their graduation, they would face their first real test. The Colossal Titan appeared exactly as it had 5 years earlier. One moment, the day was calm and ordinary. The next, that massive skinless face rose above Walrose, its hand gripping the top of the 50-meter barrier. The cadets stationed at Trost district for their first assignment after graduation froze in horror. It was happening again, exactly like before. The Colossal Titan's leg swung forward in a kick that shattered Trost's reinforced gate, sending chunks of stone and metal flying into the town. And through that breach, Titans began pouring in once again. Eren was stationed on the wall near the gate. He had been assigned to cannon defense, a relatively safe position. But when he saw the Colossal Titan appear, when he saw that same impossible creature that had destroyed his home and killed his mother, something inside him snapped. "It's the same one," he breathed, his eyes wide with recognition and rage. "After 5 years, it's the same Titan that destroyed Wall Maria." He drew his blades and launched himself from the wall, using his ODM gear to swing directly at the Colossal Titan's massive head. He was going to kill it. Right now, revenge at last. But as his blade swung toward the Titan's weak point, the creature moved with impossible speed. Steam erupted from its body, a scalding cloud that forced Eren to veer away or be burned alive. And when the steam cleared, the Colossal Titan was gone, vanished. Just as mysteriously as it had appeared 5 years ago. How? How could a Titan that massive simply disappear? It defied everything they knew about Titan behavior. But there was no time to contemplate the mystery. Trost was under attack. Titans were flooding through the breach, and every soldier, even the newly graduated cadets, was being called into combat. Eren regrouped with his squad. Armin was there, his face pale but determined. Mikasa had been stationed elsewhere, but would surely be fighting her way toward him. And there were others, veteran soldiers taking command, organizing the defense. The goal was clear. Evacuate the civilians while soldiers held back the Titans long enough for people to escape through the inner gate to Wall Rose. It was the same strategy as 5 years ago. Sacrifice soldiers' lives to buy time for evacuation. Eren led his squad through the streets, using ODM gear to swing between buildings, searching for Titans to engage. The reality of combat was immediately apparent. This was not training. The Titans were not wooden dummies or practice targets. They were living nightmares, each one unique and horrifying. They encountered a 7-meter class in a plaza. It had already killed several soldiers, and now it turned toward Eren's squad with that characteristic mindless grin. Eren gave orders, coordinating the attack just as they had been taught. Distract from the front, attack from behind. 2 soldiers swung in to draw the Titan's attention while Eren circled around, building speed, angling his approach for the weak point at the nape of the neck. His blades bit into flesh. The Titan collapsed, dead before it hit the ground. His first kill. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, it felt mechanical, necessary, no different than chopping wood or butchering livestock. They moved on, killing Titans when they could, avoiding them when they could not. The city was chaos. Screams echoed from every direction. Buildings burned. Corpses littered the streets, both human and Titan. The scale of the disaster was overwhelming. And then Eren's squad encountered a Titan in a narrow street. This one was bigger, a 15-meter class with unusually long arms. It grabbed at them with surprising speed. One soldier was caught in mid-air, crushed in the Titan's fist before he could cut himself free. Another lost his balance during an attack run and crashed into a wall, falling to the ground stunned. The Titan's hand came down on him before he could recover. Armin froze. He had been moving to attack, but seeing his comrades die paralyzed him. His mind, so brilliant in theory, could not process the horror of reality. He hovered in place, suspended by his ODM gear, completely exposed. The Titan noticed him. Its hand reached up, closing around Armin's small body. Armin screamed, certain he was about to die, about to be eaten just like so many others. Eren acted without thinking. He dove toward the Titan, not aiming for the weak point, but for its hand, trying to slice Armin free. His blades cut through the Titan's fingers, but not deep enough. The hand began to close. Eren grabbed Armin and pulled, throwing his friend clear just as the Titan's grip tightened. But in saving Armin, Eren lost his own position. The Titan's other hand came up, swatting him from the air like a fly. Eren fell, his ODM gear tangled, one leg broken from the impact. He crashed onto a rooftop and slid toward the edge. The Titan climbed up after him. Its massive face loomed over him, mouth opening wide. Eren tried to crawl away, but his broken leg would not support him. This was it. After all his training, all his promises, all his rage and determination, he was going to die in his first real battle. The Titan's teeth closed around his torso. Pain exploded through Eren's body. He felt himself being lifted, felt the Titan's jaws crushing his ribs. And then he was in its mouth, darkness and heat and suffocating pressure. Below him, Armin watched in horror, screaming his friend's name. The Titan swallowed. Eren was gone. But something strange happened in that moment. As Eren was consumed, as he fell into darkness and death, his final thought was not fear or regret. It was rage. Pure, burning rage. How dare he die like this? How dare the Titans take everything from him? His mother, his home, his dreams of freedom, and now his life. No, he would not accept this. In the darkness of the Titan's stomach, surrounded by acid and partially digested remains of other victims, Eren Yeager refused to die. His hand, severed by the Titan's teeth, regenerated. His wounds began to heal. And from within that Titan, a new Titan emerged. Armin had fallen to the ground after watching Eren die. His mind had shut down, unable to process what he had just witnessed. His best friend, dead, eaten right in front of him. Armin had failed to act when it mattered, had frozen when he should have fought. And now Eren was gone because of it. He barely noticed when Mikasa arrived, swinging through the streets with deadly efficiency, killing Titans with cold precision. She found Armin on the ground, catatonic with shock, and grabbed him. "Where's Eren?" she demanded. Armin could not speak, could not form words. He simply pointed at the Titan that had eaten Eren, the one that was now walking away, looking for more prey. Mikasa's face went blank, empty. She released Armin and launched herself at the Titan with a scream of pure anguish. Her blades flashed in the sunlight as she carved through its limbs, its torso, anywhere she could reach. She was not trying to kill it efficiently. She was trying to hurt it, to punish it, to make it pay for taking away the last person she cared about. But even as she attacked, her gas ran out. Her ODM gear sputtered and died, leaving her stranded on a rooftop. Without gas, she could not maneuver. Without maneuver, she was helpless. Titans began to surround her building, climbing up from multiple directions. This was how she would die. Fine. She welcomed it. Life without Eren held no meaning. But then something impossible happened. In the plaza below, there was an explosion of light and thunder. A blast of steam and electricity filled the air. And from that explosion emerged a Titan, unlike any the soldiers had seen before. It was 15 meters tall, with brown hair and bright green eyes. Its muscles were more defined than normal Titans, its expression more focused. And most impossibly, it was fighting the other Titans. The new Titan grabbed a 7-meter class by the head and crushed its skull with a single squeeze. It punched through the chest of another, reaching for the weak point at the nape and destroying it. Move by move, kill by kill, It systematically eliminated every Titan in the plaza. The soldiers watching from the walls and rooftops were frozen in confusion and awe. A Titan that fought other Titans. A Titan that deliberately targeted the weak point. What was this? Mikasa stared down at the Titan, and something in its eyes struck her as familiar. Those eyes, that determination, that rage. "Eren," she whispered. The Titan killed the last of its opponents, and then collapsed, steam rising from its wounds. Its body began to break down, the flesh dissolving to reveal a human form in the nape of the neck. A boy with dark hair and tattered clothing, unconscious but alive. Eren Yeager. The soldiers who reached the plaza first were torn between awe and terror. Eren had somehow become a Titan, somehow transformed, fought, and then returned to human form. It should have been impossible. Humans became Titans and lost their humanity forever, becoming mindless monsters. That was the absolute rule. But Eren had retained his mind. He had controlled the Titan form. He had fought to protect humanity rather than destroy it. Armin arrived at the plaza, supporting Mikasa, who was weak from gas depletion. When he saw Eren's body emerging from the Titan corpse, tears streamed down his face. His friend was alive, and possibly, miraculously alive. But their relief was short-lived. Other soldiers arrived, and their reaction was fear. Captain Kitz Woerman of the Garrison Regiment ordered artillery brought to bear on their position. He was going to execute Eren as a threat to humanity. "It's a Titan!" Woerman screamed, his voice breaking with panic. "He'll transform again and kill us all. We have to destroy him now, before he wakes up." Armin tried to reason with them, tried to explain that Eren had saved them, had fought to protect humanity. But Woerman would not listen. Fear had consumed his rationality. He gave the order to fire. Mikasa moved to shield Eren with her body, prepared to die protecting him. Armin stood in front of them both, spreading his arms wide, making himself a target. If they wanted to kill Eren, they would have to kill all three of them. And then Eren woke up. He was groggy, confused, his memories of the transformation unclear. But he heard the garrison soldiers preparing to execute him, heard Woerman's terrified orders, and understood what was happening. They thought he was a monster. They were going to kill him out of fear. In desperation, Eren bit his thumb and transformed again. But this time, the transformation was incomplete. He formed a skeletal ribcage, a protective structure around himself and his friends, but nothing more. He could not sustain a full Titan form, his body too exhausted from the previous transformation. The artillery fired. The shells struck the ribcage barrier, exploding against the hardened Titan flesh. Smoke and dust filled the air. When it cleared, the three cadets were still alive, protected by Eren's partial transformation. At that moment, Commander Pixis of the Garrison Regiment arrived. Pixis was an old soldier, bald and bearded, with a reputation for unconventional thinking. He had heard reports of a Titan fighting other Titans and had come to investigate personally. "Stand down," Pixis ordered the artillery crews. "Lower your weapons." "But sir," Woerman protested, "it's a Titan. We have to—" "It's also a soldier," Pixis interrupted calmly. "And more importantly, it might be exactly what we need to save Trost. Tell me, cadet, can you control this power?" Eren, still partially transformed, nodded his skeletal head. "And would you use it to fight for humanity?" Another nod. Pixis smiled. "Then I have a proposal." The plan was desperate and insane, which is perhaps why Pixis loved it. Eren would transform into his Titan form, lift a massive boulder near the breach, and use it to seal the hole in Walrose. Meanwhile, every available soldier would protect him from the Titans that would inevitably attack. It was Armin's plan, proposed in a moment of inspiration. If they could seal the breach, the Titans already inside could be systematically eliminated, Trost could be retaken. For the first time since the walls were built, humanity could actually gain ground against the Titans. But it required Eren to maintain control of his Titan form long enough to complete the task. Could he do it? His previous transformations had been instinctive, triggered by extreme stress. Could he transform intentionally and retain his human consciousness? They would find out. Eren stood at the designated position, surrounded by elite soldiers who would protect him during the transformation. Mikasa was there, of course. She would not leave his side. Armin was coordinating with the other squads, using his tactical mind to position soldiers for maximum effectiveness. Eren bit his hand, tearing flesh to trigger the transformation. Lightning struck, thunder rolled, steam and energy exploded outward, and the 15-meter attack titan formed once again. At first, it worked. Eren's titan form moved toward the boulder, reaching down to lift it. But then something went wrong. The titan's movements became erratic, unfocused. It swung at Mikasa, nearly killing her. Its eyes were vacant, mindless. Eren had lost control. The human consciousness had been subsumed by the Titan instinct. He was no different than the other Titans now, a threat to everyone around him. Mikasa tried to reach him, tried to break through to the human mind buried in that monstrous form. She called his name, reminded him of their shared past, the promises they had made. Nothing worked. The Titan ignored her, wandering aimlessly. All around them, soldiers were dying. The Titans, attracted to the commotion, were overwhelming the defenders. The plan was failing. Trost would fall. Wall Rose would be breached, and humanity would lose another third of its territory, perhaps the final third that meant extinction. Armin watched the disaster unfold and made a decision. He ran directly at Eren's Titan form, dodging its flailing arms, and climbed up its body. He reached the exposed part of the neck where Eren's human body was partially visible and began screaming directly at him. "Eren, remember why you're here. Remember your promise. You wanted to join the Survey Corps. You wanted to see the outside world. You wanted to kill all the Titans." He listed every dream, every goal, every promise Eren had made. And slowly something changed in the Titan's eyes. Focus returned. Intelligence. Humanity. Eren heard Armin's words, and he remembered. The ocean. He wanted to see the ocean. Armin had shown him a book with drawings of vast bodies of water, of salt waves stretching to the horizon. They had promised each other that someday, somehow, they would see it together. The attack titan moved toward the boulder once more, this time with purpose. It lifted the massive stone, weighing dozens of tons, and carried it toward the breached gate. Titans attacked from all sides. Elite soldiers fought desperately to keep them back, buying precious seconds. Many died in the attempt, torn apart or crushed or devoured. But they bought enough time. Eren's Titan reached the breach and slammed the boulder into place. The hole was sealed. Trost was closed off from the outside. And humanity, for the first time in over a century, had actually taken territory back from the Titans. The garrison soldiers on the walls saw what had happened and understood the significance. Cheers erupted. After so much loss, so much failure, so much horror, they had won. It was a small victory, just one town, but it felt monumental. Eren collapsed after sealing the breach, his Titan form breaking down. When he emerged from the dissolving flesh, he was unconscious and remained so for days. His body had been pushed beyond its limits. When he finally woke, he found himself in a dark cell, chained to a bed. The room was lit only by dim torches. And standing outside the bars was a small man in a Survey Corps uniform, his face half-shadowed, but his eyes sharp and cold. "I'm Captain Levi," the man said in a flat, emotionless voice. and I'm going to be the one who decides if you live or die. Despite the victory at Trost, Eren's existence as a Titan shifter created a political crisis. 3 branches of the military had 3 different opinions on what to do with him. The garrison regiment, led by Pixis, wanted to use Eren as a weapon. If one Titan shifter could seal a breach, imagine what a dozen could do. They could reclaim Wall Maria. They could push back the Titans. Humanity could go on the offensive. The military police brigade, led by Commander Nile Dock, wanted Eren executed. He was too dangerous, too unpredictable. What if he lost control in the interior? What if he transformed in a populated area? Better to kill him now before he became a threat. And the Survey Corps, led by Commander Erwin Smith, wanted Eren recruited into their ranks. Erwin saw potential beyond just sealing breaches. With Eren's power, they could finally reach the basement in Shiganshina, the place Eren's father Grisha had said contained answers about the Titans. Erwin suspected that basement held the key to understanding their enemy, and perhaps defeating them. The decision would be made in a military tribunal, presided over by Darius Zackley, the supreme commander of all 3 military branches. The trial was a spectacle. Eren was brought into the courtroom in chains, surrounded by heavily armed guards. The public gallery was full of observers, including members of the press. Premier Zachary questioned Eren directly. "What are you exactly? Are you human or Titan?" "I am human," Eren said firmly. "I don't understand this power. I don't know where it came from, but I'm still human. I'm still a soldier, and I want to fight for humanity." Neil Dock argued for execution, painting Eren as a threat to public safety. He recounted every story of Titans breaking into the walls, of humans being devoured, and suggested that Eren could become the same. "We cannot risk the lives of hundreds of thousands of people on the chance that this boy can control his power. The prudent action is elimination." But Erwin Smith countered with a different argument. "What if we could reach Shiganshina? What if we could discover what's in Eren Yeager's basement? His father was present on the day of the first breach. He may have known something about the Titans that we don't, and Eren's power gives us the first realistic chance in a century to venture that far beyond the walls." The debate went back and forth. Merchants in the gallery shouted their opinions. Nobles whispered among themselves. Eren was called a monster, a hero, a necessary evil, a dangerous liability. And then Levi Ackerman spoke. Levi was humanity's strongest soldier, a living legend who had killed more Titans than anyone else alive. His word carried weight, and his proposal was characteristically blunt. "I'll take custody of the kid," Levi said. "He'll join my squad in the Survey Corps. If he loses control, I'll kill him myself. I'm the only one fast enough to do it before he causes real damage." So the question becomes, do you trust me to make that call? The room fell silent. Levi's reputation was such that yes, people did trust him. If anyone could kill a Titan shifter, it was humanity's strongest soldier. Zachary made his decision. Eren would be remanded to the custody of the Survey Corps under Captain Levi's direct supervision. But it came with conditions. Eren would be watched constantly. At the first sign of losing control, he would be executed. And if he ever transformed without permission, no matter the reason, he would be considered an enemy of humanity. Eren accepted these terms. He had no choice. But in truth, he would have accepted almost anything. He was alive. He could fight. And he was now part of the Survey Corps, the very organization he had always dreamed of joining. Mikasa and Armin were assigned to Levi's squad as well, along with several other elite soldiers. They would be Eren's constant companions, his guards and fellow soldiers. Together, they would venture beyond the walls and face the truth about the Titans. But first, they needed to train Eren in his Titan power. How far could he transform? How long could he maintain the form? What were the limitations? Hang Zoe, the Survey Corps' resident Titan researcher, conducted a series of experiments that were as enlightening as they were exhausting. Eren could transform roughly 3 times in quick succession before his body gave out. Each transformation consumed enormous amounts of energy. He healed from injuries while in Titan form, but the healing carried over to his human body, meaning he could potentially survive wounds that would normally be fatal. And most importantly, he seemed to have some ability to harden his Titan skin at will, creating armor-like structures that were far more durable than normal Titan flesh. But all of this came at a cost. After extensive transformations, Eren would pass out from exhaustion, sometimes for days. His body temperature would spike. His mental state would become unstable. The Titan power was not limitless, and using it too much threatened his humanity in ways they did not yet understand. Still, it was more than they had ever had before. For the first time in 100 years, humanity had a weapon that could fight back. 1 month after the Battle of Trost, the Survey Corps launched their next expedition beyond Wall Rose. The 57th expedition would be the largest in years, with over 100 soldiers participating. Their goal was to test Eren's abilities in the field, to see if he could be used to push deeper into Titan territory than ever before. Eren was assigned to Levi's squad, the Special Operations Squad. It consisted of elite soldiers hand-picked by Levi himself. Petra Rahl, a young woman with ginger hair and exceptional skill with ODM gear. Oluo Bozado, who mimicked Levi's mannerisms and speech patterns to an absurd degree. Eld Jin, the second in command with a calm demeanor and natural leadership ability. And Gunther Schultz, quiet but reliable, with the highest Titan kill count in the squad after Levi. These were humanity's elite soldiers, and they would be Eren's teachers and protectors. The expedition used Erwin Smith's long-distance enemy detection formation, a revolutionary strategy that maximized coverage while minimizing casualties. The formation was a wide-spreading net of soldiers, with faster riders on the flanks to spot Titans and fire-colored smoke signals to warn the main formation. The central force would adjust their path based on these signals, avoiding Titans when possible, and only engaging when necessary. It was a clever system, and it had significantly reduced casualties on Survey Corps expeditions. But it was not perfect. Some Titans could not be avoided, and there were other threats beyond the mindless monsters. The expedition had been traveling for several hours when the first red smoke signal appeared. A Titan off to the right flank. The formation adjusted, steering away. Another red signal. Another adjustment. The system was working. But then came a different signal. A black smoke. Not red for Titan, but black for unknown threat. Something was wrong. In the right flank of the formation, soldiers had encountered something they had never seen before. A Titan, yes, but female in appearance, 15 meters tall, with blonde hair and a lean, muscular build. And unlike every other Titan, this one was running. Titans were typically slow and awkward, especially the larger ones. But the female Titan, as it would come to be called, sprinted with the grace and speed of an accomplished athlete. And it was heading directly toward the center of the formation, ignoring the soldiers that tried to engage it. It was hunting something or someone. Armin, stationed in the outer formation, encountered the female Titan first. He watched in horror as it crushed a fellow soldier in its hand and then examined the corpse carefully. It was looking at faces, checking identities, looking for someone specific. And then it looked at Armin. Its eyes met his. He was exposed, helpless, certain he was about to die. But the female Titan simply set him down on a tree branch and ran past, continuing its charge toward the center. It had seen his face, recognized he was not who it was searching for, and spared him. Armin's mind raced. This Titan was intelligent. It could distinguish between humans. It had a goal. And based on its trajectory, it was heading directly for Eren. He fired a smoke signal, black for unknown threat, and used his ODM gear to pursue the female Titan, hoping to warn the others before it reached them. In the forest, Eren rode with Levi's squad. They had entered a section of gigantic trees, each hundreds of meters tall, perfect for ODM gear maneuvering, but also perfect cover for Titans. Erwin's orders had been clear. No matter what happens, keep moving toward the center of the forest. Do not engage. Do not stop. But when the female Titan burst through the trees behind them, Eren's resolve wavered. This was the thing that had killed so many soldiers already today. This was a threat to his comrades. How could he not fight? Transform, Oluo urged. Eren, use your power. We'll support you. But Levi's order was absolute. Keep moving. Trust the commander's plan. The female Titan pursued them through the trees. It was fast, terrifyingly fast, gaining ground despite their best efforts to outpace it. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of soldiers engaging it, buying time with their lives. Each death weighed on Eren's conscience. We have to fight, he insisted. People are dying because of me. I can beat that thing. Let me transform. No, Levi said simply. And then the female Titan did something unexpected. It hardened its fingers into claws and began climbing the trees, using the massive trunks for leverage to move even faster. It was adapting, learning, showing problem-solving ability that no Titan should possess. Gunther broke from the formation to engage it, swinging around a tree trunk for a killing blow. The female Titan caught him mid-air, swung him into a tree so hard his body exploded on impact, and continued its pursuit without slowing. Eren watched his squad mate die, watched the veteran soldier, the man who had helped train him, reduced to a smear of blood on bark. And still, Levi ordered them forward. They emerged into a clearing in the forest, a small open space surrounded by the giant trees. And there, they found their destination. A trap. Nets of specially designed cables hung between the trees, invisible in the shadows. As the female Titan pursued them into the clearing, soldiers hidden in the branches triggered the trap. The nets fired, wrapping around the female Titan's body, binding its limbs, pulling it to the ground. Dozens of cables, each secured to the massive trees by anchor bolts, held the Titan immobile. Erwin Smith had planned this from the beginning. The entire expedition had been a trap to capture the female Titan, to discover what made it different, to learn who or what was controlling it. Because that was the terrifying truth that Armin had deduced. This Titan was like Eren. There was a human inside it, piloting it, using it as a weapon. But who? And why were they targeting Eren? Erwin approached the captured Titan, his face grave. I'm going to ask you some questions, he called up to it. And I suggest you cooperate. We have ways of making you talk. But the female Titan did not respond with words. Instead, it opened its mouth and released a scream. Not a roar of defiance or a cry of pain. This was something else, a call, a signal. From the forest beyond, they heard answering sounds. Footsteps, many footsteps. Titans began emerging from the trees. 3-meter class, 5-meter class, 7-meter class. Dozens of them, drawn by the female Titan's cry. And unlike normal Titans that attacked any human in sight, these ignored the Survey Corps soldiers entirely. They swarmed the female Titan, grabbing at it, biting it, tearing into its flesh with disturbing eagerness. "What are they doing?" one soldier shouted in confusion. Hang, observing from a nearby tree, understood first. "They're eating it. The Titans are trying to devour the female Titan." It made no sense. Titans did not eat each other. They only attacked humans. But these Titans were ignoring the soldiers and focusing entirely on the captured shifter. Why? The answer would come later. But in that moment, all they knew was that the trap had failed. The female Titan was being devoured by its own kind, and any chance of learning its secrets was disappearing with every bite. Erwin made the agonizing decision to abandon the capture attempt. All soldiers, withdraw. Back to the horses. We're retreating. But as they fled the forest, the female Titan did something none of them expected. It hardened its entire body, creating a crystal shell that the mindless Titans could not break. And then, inside that protective cocoon, it regenerated. The human inside consumed the female Titan's body, reformed it, and broke free from the crystal. The female Titan was loose again, and now it was between the Survey Corps and their escape route. What followed was a massacre. The female Titan pursued the retreating soldiers with single-minded determination. It caught one soldier in midair, crushed him in its hand. It grabbed another by the ODM cables and swung him into a tree. It moved with horrifying speed and intelligence, adapting to their tactics, anticipating their maneuvers. Levi's squad held back to engage it, giving the others time to escape. Petra, Eld, Oluo. These elite soldiers, these veterans who had survived dozens of expeditions, attacked in perfect coordination. Eld attacked from the front, distracting the female Titan. Oluo and Petra circled behind, moving for the nape. The female Titan seemed vulnerable, seemed to fall for the faint. But at the last second, it spun. Its kick caught Eld in mid-air, crushing his body. Its hand snapped out and grabbed Petra by her cable, reeling her in before biting her in half. Oluo, seeing his comrades die, hesitated for just a moment. That moment was enough. The female Titan crushed him against a tree. In seconds, 3 of humanity's best soldiers were dead. Eren, watching from a distance, felt something break inside him. These people had trained him, protected him, believed in him. And they died because he had been too afraid to transform, too willing to follow orders even when every instinct screamed at him to fight. He bit his hand. Lightning struck. The attack Titan formed. The female Titan and the attack Titan faced each other in the forest. 2 intelligent Titans driven by human minds. They charged. The fight was brutal and primal. The attack Titan fought with rage and grief, throwing wild punches, trying to overwhelm the female Titan with pure aggression. But the female Titan fought with technique, using martial arts moves, redirecting force, exploiting openings. It was a losing battle. Eren was inexperienced, controlled by emotion, fighting without strategy. The female Titan was skilled, controlled, and far more practiced with its power. It knocked the attack Titan down, pinned it, and began tearing away at its body to reach the human inside. Mikasa and Levi arrived to even the odds. While the attack Titan kept the female Titan occupied from the front, Levi attacked from behind, his blades flashing in a spinning maneuver that sliced deep into the female Titan's eyes, blinding it. Mikasa went for the nape, her cut precise and deep. They had won. The female Titan collapsed. Steam rose from its wounds as it began to break down. But as Mikasa prepared to deliver the final blow, something stopped her. The female Titan's body was dissolving, revealing the human inside. Blonde hair, a small frame, a face Mikasa recognized. Annie Leonhardt, their fellow trainee, their supposed comrade. Annie had been the female Titan all along. After the disastrous 57th expedition, the Survey Corps returned to the walls battered and defeated. They had lost 30% of their soldiers, including some of their best. They had failed to capture the female Titan. And they had learned almost nothing about their enemy, except that there were more Titan shifters than just Eren. But Armin had pieced together the truth. Through careful observation, logical deduction, and process of elimination, he determined that Annie Leonhardt had to be the female Titan. The martial arts style was identical, the body type matched, and most damningly, Annie had been present in the right place at the right time for every major event. Erwin devised a plan to capture her. They could not arrest her openly, not without proof and not without risking her transformation in a crowded area. Instead, they would lure her underground into the tunnel systems beneath Stohess district, where her Titan form would be constrained by the stone ceiling and unable to move effectively. Eren agreed to be the bait. Annie trusted him, or at least trusted him more than she trusted the others. He would ask her to help him escape from the military police, to guide him through the tunnels. And once she was underground, Survey Corps soldiers would ambush her. The plan almost worked. Eren met Annie in Stohess, a town in Walsina, the innermost territory. He explained that he needed help, that the military police were going to kill him, that he needed to reach the Survey Corps headquarters safely. Would she help him? Annie agreed. But as they walked toward the tunnel entrance, as they prepared to descend underground, she stopped. "Eren," she said quietly, "do you remember our hand-to-hand training? I taught you that technique, the one where you use your opponent's strength against them." "Yeah," Eren said, confused by the change in subject. "I remember." "Good." Annie's expression hardened. "Then you'll understand what I'm about to do." She refused to enter the tunnel. She had suspected the trap, had seen through the deception, and now, surrounded by soldiers in the middle of Stohess, she made her choice. She bit her finger. Lightning struck. The female Titan formed in the middle of the city. Buildings exploded outward from the transformation. Dozens of civilians died in the initial blast. And then the female Titan began running, heading toward Walsina, trying to escape before the Survey Corps could mobilize. Eren transformed to stop her. The two Titans crashed together in a brutal melee, their bodies smashing through buildings, crushing streets, killing civilians who could not evacuate in time. This was no longer a battle in the wilderness. This was urban warfare, and every blow had civilian casualties. The military police tried to intervene, but their weapons were useless. Cannons fired, but the Titans regenerated faster than they could be damaged. Soldiers attempted to engage with ODM gear, but in the tight confines of the city streets, maneuvering was nearly impossible. The female Titan fought differently this time, not to kill, but to escape. She hardened her fists and elbows for devastating strikes, then sprinted while Eren was stunned, trying to reach the wall and climb over it. If she could get outside the walls, she could lose her pursuers in Titan country. But Mikasa would not allow it. She pursued relentlessly, slicing at the female Titan's legs, hamstrings, anywhere she could reach to slow it down. Other soldiers joined her, veterans of the Survey Corps who knew how to fight Titans in any terrain. The chase led to a cathedral in the city's center. The female Titan tried to scale the building to get height advantage. Eren's attack Titan climbed after her. They fought on the cathedral roof, their massive bodies destroying the centuries-old architecture, sending stone gargoyles and stained glass crashing to the streets below. Eren was fighting better now. He had learned from his previous defeat, was using the techniques Annie herself had taught him. When she threw a punch, he redirected it. When she tried to kick, he swept her leg. He was adapting. But so was she. The female Titan hardened her entire body, her skin becoming like diamond, impervious to blades. She could not maintain the hardening for long, but while it was active, she was nearly indestructible. They fell from the cathedral roof together, crashing through multiple levels until they hit the ground. The impact cratered the street, sending debris flying. Both Titans rose, circling each other. Eren charged, ready to finish this. But the female Titan did not fight back this time. Instead, she covered her nape with hardened hands, protecting the weak point. She was going defensive, buying time for something. And then Eren understood. She was not trying to escape anymore. She was trying to draw the battle out, to cause as much destruction as possible, to turn public opinion against Eren and the Survey Corps. If the people of Walsina saw Eren's Titan form destroying their city, killing their citizens, they would demand his execution. The Survey Corps would lose their greatest weapon. Annie would win without having to defeat him in combat. Eren had to end this quickly. He grabbed the female Titan's arms, pulling them away from her nape. Mikasa struck from behind, her blades cutting deep. The female Titan's hardening failed. The weak point was exposed. Mikasa prepared to deliver the killing blow, but something stopped her. Annie was in there, their fellow cadet, someone they had trained with, eaten with, laughed with. Could she really kill her? The hesitation cost them. The female Titan broke free, threw Mikasa aside, and did something desperate. She opened her mouth and released a scream, just as she had in the forest. But there were no Titans to answer her call here. They were inside Walsina. This was humanity's safest territory. Or so they thought. From the walls themselves, Titans began to emerge. They had been inside the walls all along, dormant, waiting. The true secret of the wall's strength was that they were made of Titans. Millions of Titans, hardened and immobile, forming an impenetrable barrier. And Annie's scream had awakened some of them. Panic erupted throughout Stohess. If the walls were made of Titans, what did that mean? How could they trust that these barriers would protect them? The revelation shook the foundations of society, of everything people believed about their world. But there was no time to process this. Eren had to stop Annie before she escaped, before she caused more damage, before she reached the king and potentially killed the entire royal family. He tackled her one more time. They fell together, rolling across the destroyed plaza. And in that moment, as they grappled, Eren felt something change. His rage crystallized into determination. He was not fighting out of anger anymore. He was fighting to protect people, to save his friends, to preserve whatever future humanity had left. He pinned the female Titan down, his fist hardened, mimicking her technique. And he beat her over and over, pounding her face into pulp, not stopping until the regeneration ceased, until the female Titan's body went limp. Annie was defeated. Her human body was pulled from the dissolving Titan flesh, unconscious but alive. But as the soldiers moved to secure her, something unexpected happened. Annie crystallized herself. Just as the female Titan could harden its skin, Annie hardened her entire body in her human form, encasing herself in a diamond-like shell that could not be broken. She was comatose inside, unreachable, unable to answer questions or face judgment. The Survey Corps had captured their target, but they had learned almost nothing. Annie was sealed in crystal, as inaccessible as if she were dead. The secrets she held remained locked away, and the cost of capturing her had been enormous. Hundreds of civilians dead in the battle, buildings destroyed. The revelation about the wall's true nature causing widespread panic. The Survey Corps had won, but it felt like a defeat. In the weeks following the battle in Stohess, the military conducted a thorough investigation. How many Titan shifters were there? Were Reiner and Bertolt also enemies? What about the other trainees from the 104th Corps? But no concrete evidence emerged. Reiner and Bertolt played their parts perfectly, acting shocked and betrayed by Annie's actions. They volunteered for extra patrols, submitted to questioning without complaint, and gave every appearance of loyal soldiers. Eren was confined to his quarters under heavy guard. The public outcry against him was intense. Yes, he had stopped the female Titan, but he had also destroyed a significant portion of Stohess in the process. Civilian casualties numbered in the hundreds. Was one Titan worth that cost? Premier Zachary called another tribunal. Once again, Eren's fate hung in the balance. Once again, the military police argued for execution while the Survey Corps argued for preservation. But this time, there was a new voice in the debate. The true royal family, the Rice family, had taken an interest in Eren. They saw potential in his power, potential that extended beyond simple fighting. If they could control Eren, if they could use the founding Titan power he apparently possessed, they could reshape the world. But that's a story for another time. For now, Eren remained in Survey Corps custody. His power had been proven. He could fight other Titans. He could be useful. But he was also dangerous, unpredictable, and deeply traumatized by the deaths of his comrades. Levi's squad was gone. Petra, Eld, Olwo, Gunther, all dead. Dozens of other Survey Corps members had died on the 57th expedition, and Eren blamed himself for every death. If he had transformed earlier, if he had been stronger, if he had been smarter, maybe they would still be alive. Mikasa stayed by his side, as always. She did not blame him. She blamed Annie, blamed the military police for not acting sooner, blamed the world for being so cruel, but never Eren. He was trying his best. That was all anyone could do. Armin struggled with his own guilt. He had been the one to deduce Annie's identity. He had helped plan the trap. And while he knew intellectually that they had no choice, that Annie was an enemy who had killed dozens of soldiers, emotionally, he felt like a traitor. Annie had been their friend, or at least he had thought she was. How much of her kindness had been real? How much had been manipulation? The 104th Training Corps, once united by shared experience, was now fractured. Some had joined the Survey Corps, some the garrison, some the military police. They were scattered across the military branches, and the bonds they had formed during training were straining under the weight of war and suspicion. But they would be reunited soon enough. Because outside the walls, beyond humanity's knowledge, a greater threat was preparing to strike. The warriors from Marley, the nation beyond the sea, had failed to retrieve the founding Titan. Annie had been captured, and now they would have to try again, with a new plan and greater desperation. The walls had held for another season, but the cracks were showing, and through those cracks, the truth about the world would soon come flooding in, drowning everything humanity thought they knew.